Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Late Night Learning. I am your host, Dr. Anthony Palumba. Now today we're going to be continuing our lecture on group effects as well as self-effects surrounding video gameplay. And so if we're thinking about self-situational effects, group situational effects, we've kind of gone through a few things here, both in playing video games as well as shopping for video games. Those are really the two biggest experiences that surround gaming, right? Making that first product decision that I'm going to make that consumption, I'm going to make that purchase, I'm then going to play said video game. Along that consumer journey, it's important to think about how self and group dynamics might play out here. And so in this lecture, we're going to be looking at this further. We're also going to be looking at esports, Major League Gaming, and a few other relative aspects of self and group situational effects. Let's get started. When we think about particular kinds of group dynamics, there are a few considerations to be met here. For one, we have social power. What might be the social power in the group? Who wields the most power? Who might dictate the next video game that we play? We also have referent power. Who is the expert or referent in the room? This is similar to legitimate power and expert power as well. Who has the legitimate power, the actual power to dictate to the group? Who might be an expert in the group? Who might be the reference in the group or maybe a source of information in the group? We also have information power. Who might know the most here? And then coercive power. Who might motivate, spur to action, push other people to go do something? Group dynamics can really be broken down into all of these parameters. As you're looking at this list, which do you fall in within your own friend group? Maybe it's your friend group at St. John's or at whatever university or college you're at. Maybe it's your group dynamic at home. Maybe it's your group dynamic among your video game playing friends. Whatever the case may be, it's important to note that everybody has some power in each of these. The question isn't whether or not you have power, it's how much in each of these buckets. Let's keep going. Groups and video gameplay. We look at groups and we think about different references here. We're thinking about how groups relate to one another, how groups relate to each other. This notion of in-group and out-group really do factor in here quite a bit. This idea that everybody within a group is similar along some sort of characteristic. And then we have our out-group people, people who don't really belong, people who don't mesh well, people who may not have the same kind of playing style, people who may not be on the same wavelength. It doesn't mean one group is bad or one individual is bad who can't fit in. It's just a matter of cultural fit. Let's keep going. So communities, groups, and tribes. When we think about video gameplay, especially on Fortnite, especially on World of Warcraft, League of Legends, other MMORPG games. We're thinking about branded communities. The community is branded, one, because in your tribe online, you have a name. That name is your brand. You might be great at accumulating points or experiences or having items or really being superior at auction houses or being a dead shot or being able to unlock and find Easter eggs. Whatever the talent or skill of your group, you thereby brand them as such. And so branded communities really do allow for differentiation of skill sets and foci within each group. We also have brand fests, in which multiple brands converge and convene together during a video game. From this, there's collective value creation. How does an individual bring added value or added equity to a group? To make the group better, to make the group feel better. There's also this notion of consumer tribe. Consumers may be part of a tribe. You feel as though everything you do is for that tribe. You feel as though everything you do is for that tribe. You think about the collective good, the greater good, the bigger good. Tribal marketing strategy is a strategy in which a product or service is positioned to appeal to a certain tribe, to help a tribe out with a skill, to help a tribe out with accomplishing something, to help jocks out with something, to help nerds out with something, to help tech people out with something. We begin to think about the different individuals that comprise a group, and we may create a product or service that appeals to that particular sect. Let's keep going. Positive versus negative reference groups. So we think about propinquity, group cohesiveness, avoidance groups, and group shopping. If we think about this, we think about group cohesiveness. We think about groups getting tighter as they're exposed to other people who aren't relatable to them. There might be groups that we avoid as a result. We also engage in group shopping. Group shopping deals with shopping as a group. And so as we shop as a group, we pick up different attributes, different traits. And as groups hang out together, these traits are referenced and shared and adopted, thus creating a more homogeneous looking group. Let's keep going. Conformity. Part of group dynamic is conformity. How well does your group conform to a particular focus? How well does your group conform? Do you guys conform? We conform to certain extents. As a faculty member, I have to conform to certain standards. As a faculty member, I have to conform to certain teaching styles, certain rules that may govern what I do. There are cultural pressures, though, to conform. We know in certain countries, in certain states, in certain cities, identifying as homosexual can be dangerous. You may, if you identify as part of the LGBTQ community, have to conform, maybe not express your sexual preferences within that society. So there are cultural pressures there. There are cultural pressures in this country to get a degree. I think it's been so ingrained and so woven into the fabric of being an American that you wouldn't think twice about whether or not you're going to college. Although now we're having questions about what the true value is of a college experience. There is the fear of deviance. If you deviate from the group, will you be let go from the group? Will you be ousted from the group? Will you be fired from the group? Will you be let go from the group? Will you not be appointed from the group? These are issues. Commitment. How committed are you to this group? Are you going to stick around? Or is this just kind of a passing group for you? We think about gaming. You going to stick around and help enhance the quality of this group? Or is this just kind of a stepping stone for you? And if this is a stepping stone for you, make sure the group doesn't find out. Group unanimity, susceptibility to interpersonal influence. Groups tend to agglomerate and to kind of coalesce around maybe a homogenized culture, if you will. Susceptibility to one person influencing the group dynamics is sometimes invited and is sometimes rejected. So when we think about video game playing groups, it is remarkably relevant that we find people that enhance the quality of the group, support the group, will do whatever it takes for the group, and will not seek to create much change within the group, because this may not be invited by a lot of senior members within said group. Let's keep going. Cultural influences on consumer decision making. If we think about group dynamics, one thing we absolutely have to think about is the culture that is engendered from these groups. What is culture? How do we decide what culture is? Culture is this merge or synergy between art, between information, between talents, between self-expression, and between level of importance of different aspects in life. That's one way to think about culture. Culture evolves as people determine what's important evolves. What's important in the arts, what's important in food, what's important truly in self-expression. Whatever is important in self-expression at a moment is usually one of the roots, serves as one of the roots or tenets of modern culture. How is the video game industry indicative of the culture in the United States? The video game industry has evolved alongside the United States through the 80s, which was fairly conservative politically, through the 90s, which was a bit more liberal in nature, allowed for greater innovation, through the 2000s, in which we kind of swung back a bit conservative, and through the last decade, which has kind of been a mix of liberal and conservative values. So in that time span, video gaming has gone from being very abstract to being progressive to considering backlashes about hypersexualization of women, even hypersexualization of men in video games. Violence in video games has been critiqued, has been examined, especially in the wake of this second wave of school shootings we've had in the last 10 years, 15 years. And so video games do evolve alongside cultural preferences, to be sure. At this point, we're seeing more customization during video gameplay. Why? Well, in society, we're seeing more customization going on as a consumption behavior. When was the last time you ordered a black coffee at Starbucks? Nobody does that. Very few do. People want triple fat, non-fat mocha latte or something else. We are becoming more and more individualized in our experiences. We're having less and less shared experiences as a society. This is why when we play Fortnite or League of Legends, the ability to customize your avatar, the ability to customize every aspect of your gameplay really is a reflection of consumption in the United States at large. It's becoming more precise. That also means we're having less shared experiences as a society. Let's keep going. Group thinking. So decision emergence theory. This theory states that groups will go through stages when creating a decision. First, there's this notion of orientation. We might look to the expert in the group. We might look toward the knowledge expert in the room. We might look even toward the coercive member in the group, the one who pushes us. We might say to ourselves, well, we need to be oriented about a problem. We usually make decisions when there's a problem. There might be some sort of conflict. The group will inevitably go through some sort of conflict, weighing pros and cons. There might be some sort of emergence that comes out, and then some sort of reinforcement. So this emergence is this idea that there's an emerge of a solution. And then reinforcement is created so that everybody is on board. We reinforce the solution. This is a solution. This is what we felt. This is how we're perceiving this. This is exactly what we're going to do. When a group goes through this, the goal is to create some sort of agreement. Even if everybody isn't completely on board, everybody is at least on board for the greater good of the group. Let's keep going. This is true in many different places in gaming, but none truer than esports. Esports, or electronic-based sports, really has mushroomed from a subculture within the video game milieu into several legitimate sports leagues. We have multiple sports leagues that are supported at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, at the Cowboys Stadium down in Dallas as well. A lot of these venues are holding competitions. It has created tremendous ubiquity very quickly. Esports is the fastest growing sport in the world. And it has marketers and branded products and services, including State Farm, Microsoft, Red Bull, even MasterCard, credit card companies, insurance companies, tech companies, beverage companies. Everybody is investing money into advertising, creating product placement opportunities, and creating experiential opportunities for consumers. Let's keep going. Esports and its future. It is slated to rise from earning $655 million in 2017 to about $900 million in 2018. Currently, it has hit the $1 billion mark. This year, it is slated to hit the $1 billion mark in 2020. It is estimated that by 2019, nearly 400 million people will annually view esports. Tencent. You should absolutely know who Tencent is. It is a Chinese conglomerate. It is the parent company of League of Legends. It is one of the most popular worldwide online multiplayer battle games, and it runs its own annual global competition league. So these firms that have control over esports are able to lock in on creating these experiences that bring a lot of people together, a lot of group dynamics, that create experiential advertising experiences, and really do eliminate external distractions because they have control over the space. They get to determine where the advertisements are, how many advertisements consumers are exposed to, how much product placement there may be in games, how much branded advertisement there might be, how much native advertisement there might be, content marketing there might be. And so being able to create these ecosystems is not just an opportunity for video game players to really tap into an ecosystem, but it's also for advertisers and public relations firms to have a broad swath of a population and to be able to have conversations with them. Let's keep going. These sports leagues have surged as video game players have sought out arenas and other live events. And so they are becoming rock stars and superstars. We know we have Ninja as one of the greatest esports athletes out there. As influencers, we have PewDiePie and we have Markiplier as well. A lot of these gentlemen and ladies who participate in these activities really do become full-fledged celebrities and influencers and experts, so that if you follow them, you're part of their tribe on Twitter, on YouTube. And you may source them for information. You may follow them for advice. You may think to yourself, what are they going to say about X, Y, and Z? How would they play this level? How would they complete this mission? Staples Center in Los Angeles has regularly hosted events. Moreover, professional sports teams, including Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, has made investments in these particular leagues as well. Let's keep going. The existence of esports. In each gaming tournament, rules are established that help frame the narrative. And so the rules here not only bound athletes, but they also offer opportunities here to create a narrative, to create challenges, to create gauntlets, to create opportunities for expression. If I have to go through 3 battles to go on to the next level, that's a narrative device, as well as a challenge for video game players. But it still is a narrative device. It has secondary influences on creating and stirring drama. This is also the first sports league that really has been introduced in the US and has grown exponentially so quickly in the last 60 years. Certainly Major League Soccer has grown quickly, but esports has eclipsed Major League Soccer in the United States insofar as quick growth rates are concerned here. The existence of esports is not just another avenue for video gameplay fanfare, but also legitimizes video gameplay as a household sport. Some of you may scoff at the notion that video gameplay is an athletic event. It's up for debate. I see both sides of the argument. Hand-eye coordination, dexterity, stamina, quick decision-making, points, obstacles, challenges, rules, standards, goals. Video gameplay certainly has the trappings of an athletic event. Whether they're true athletes, it's up for debate. In realizing how quickly the esports industry has increased, it really is key to consider how it has impacted the video game business and relevant mechanisms. Esports has created and shown the level of competition that video gameplay can reach. People who play video games now can aspire to be influencers or athletes. They can better measure themselves against experts. Remember, 20 years ago, it was very difficult to know who's an expert in video gameplay. You probably have to go on blogs. Certainly, you wouldn't be able to watch them play. You'd have to see their scores on a leaderboard somewhere. If we go back further with video gameplay, arcades locked in who scored the most points, who crushed it in Pac-Man or Donkey Kong, whatever it may be. But now we have greater access to experts. We have greater access to see how a game can be played. We have greater access in understanding how I can get better at a video game. Those are also trappings of basketball, hockey, baseball, and football. This is a complete system that is quantified and measured. We get to see who's better. We get to see how I can get better. That's new. Let's keep going. The history of esports, this was something and is something that's really been going on for quite some time. Again, people have always been competitive with video games. The question is, how known were they? It's very difficult, again, to find experts and to be able to justify those experts and to be able to see those experts at their craft. Esports has helped illuminate this. The history of esports begins in the 70s on college campuses. Stanford University, right by San Francisco and Silicon Valley, hosted a university-wide space war competition. Today, more than 100 viewers, million viewers that should be, watch video gameplay each month. More than 100 million viewers. This is nearly how many people viewed the 2018 Super Bowl, 103 million. And so we are seeing basically the equivalent of a Super Bowl every month regarding how many people are watching other people play video games. And again, this group dynamic implicates people who play video games and people who are willing to watch video games being played here. This kind of dynamic lends itself to learning. That cannot be understated here. When we think about group dynamics, learning is at play, always. There's always somebody in the group who wants to get better. There's always somebody in the group who's perceived to be the best. And so whether your group is 5 people trudging through the forest in an online Call of Duty game, or whether it's a million of you who are following Ninja, all aspiring to be the next Ninja, all aspiring to be top athletes, that group dynamic exists regardless. Let's keep going. Esports awards. People are now being given awards for what they do in esports. Recognition really didn't exist before in gaming in a standardized manner. You know, you might be the best at Pac-Man in Seattle, fine. I'm the best in New York. How do we figure out who's better? I don't know. You could look at point total. But that's really about it. It's likely we'll never meet face-to-face in a competition. Now we have a professional league that recognizes the best and the brightest. Most players earn at least $450 per match in a tournament. The International League of Legends Championships is one of the greatest and one of the biggest currently in esports. Let's keep going. Team Liquid is a very, very popular esports group. They have 60 plus athletes across 14 video games. They are located at the Alienware training facility in LA. The facility itself has also created a documentary around this. And I encourage you to see the documentary on Team Liquid. They also manage an encyclopedic site for esports known as Team Liquid. And so these video game companies are also leveraging esports groups as a way in which to push their own video games, to illustrate how their video games should be played, to illustrate their own expertise in not only designing video games, but playing video games, and really being able to reach out to the community to create greater awareness about a game and about opportunities for people to join their tribe. Let's keep going. Gambling and esports. Gambling has been illegal in esports until 2018. It's now regulated state by state. The Supreme Court's handling of Murphy versus National Collegiate Athletic Association, the NCAA, the ruling here did consider whether or not the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act of 1992 was unconstitutional. Unfortunately, the NCAA did lose this, and so this is a particularly interesting case in which, Keith, can I do that over?
Yes, you can.
Excellent.
Just take it when you're ready.
Gambling in esports. Gambling has been illegal in esports since 2018. It is now state by state. Currently, the Supreme Court is going through Murphy versus National Collegiate Athletic Association. This is a case that really looked at whether or not we could gamble in professional sports. It looked at whether or not the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act of 1992 was unconstitutional, and this is kind of an ongoing case, as it were. Let's keep going. Major League Gaming. Major League Gaming is the last group situational effect that I'd like to discuss here. It was created in 2002. This company is an esports organization. In 2016, the company itself was acquired by Activision Blizzard. It currently runs MLG.TV, which is its current streaming service. And so Major League Gaming does allow for a lot of different sub-leagues and sub-matches that are going on here. In this lecture, I hope you realize how complex group and individual situational effects are. When we're in a group and we're playing a video game, if we're part of a league, if we're an influencer or a gamer ourselves, it's critical to realize how much group dynamics may play a role. Additionally, if we're playing video games alone, there's also something to be said for the kinds of decisions we make and the kinds of strategies that we employ during video gameplay. Well, that's all the time we have on Late Night Learning. As always, keep laughing and keep learning.